A woman found a hair clip that did not belong to her at home. She learned from her daughter that it belonged to Sora's teacher. In order to prevent herself from thinking too much, Jenny wanted to question her husband, but the words were stuck in her throat and she swallowed them back. Miho returned to school feeling extremely irritable. Sooner or later, his wife would discover his affair with Sora. If he had a secret hideout, it would really avoid a lot of unnecessary trouble. But when he looked at his bank balance, he felt helpless. Although he was a university professor, his salary was not high. Miho suddenly remembered his father-in-law and had an idea. So he called his wife to ask when he could get the money his father-in-law had promised to use to pull some strings. Jenny told her husband that her father was not well off at the moment. But indecisive Jenny couldn't resist her husband's persistent nagging and agreed to ask her father. Jenny's father claimed that the money had already been transferred to Miho's account. If they needed money in the future, they could ask him. On her way home, Jenny wanted to give her father money for a taxi, but he refused. He had plenty of money, so how could he ask his daughter for money? Jenny felt a little guilty. Her father had generously bought Miho a car, but he didn't even have a car to get around in. But as soon as they turned the corner, her father hurriedly got out of the car because he didn't have enough money to pay for the fare back home. This poor man had raised his daughter alone with great hardship. After Jenny got married, he bought her a house in a high-end community. In order to support his son-in-law's career, he gave Jenny every penny he earned to help him build connections. Fortunately, his daughter did him proud and within a few years, Miho became a professor thanks to his connections. What Jenny didn't know was that her father had already gone bankrupt. All the money they had spent was borrowed from loan sharks. Miho used work as an excuse to abandon his family and accompany his mistress shopping. This scene was witnessed by Jaiwon, the daughter of a neighbor. Jaiwon returned home and told her mother, Hae-suk, about it. Although the two lived next door to each other and were classmates in high school, they didn't get along well back then and even got into a fight. So their relationship had always been lukewarm. So Hae-suk thought she would use this to provoke Jenny. Jenny was very angry when she heard from her enemy that her husband had a mistress. She thought that the other woman was jealous of her happy marriage and was trying to stir up trouble. She looked at the hairpin she had found a few days ago and felt inexplicably irritated. She told her husband about someone seeing him with a woman at the department store. Miho denied it, saying that he had been busy at school all day and hadn't even had time to eat. So how could he have been anywhere else? He also said that a wife like Jenny was hard to find, so how could he have any other woman? Miho's sweet words easily fooled the innocent Jenny. But just then, Miho's phone rang. He explained that the principal had called him about something urgent and that he had to go out. Jenny was still suspicious. What could be so important that he had to go out in the middle of the night? She hurriedly got dressed, even putting on the wrong shoes, and followed Miho to a bar. When Jenny saw her husband sitting alone, she thought she had overreacted. The next day, she brought her father to live with them. Not only did Miho not welcome him, he also got into a fight with Jenny. Jenny couldn't bear the injustice she had suffered and found her husband again. Before she could say a word, she was scolded by her husband. Miho felt that his wife had brought his father-in-law to their home without his consent. Jenny looked at the unreasonable man in front of her and was very angry. She asked her husband, "When we got married, you were poor and had nothing. If it weren't for my father's financial support, you would be nothing. Now that you've achieved some success in your career, you've forgotten the people who helped you." Miho was at a loss for words. Jenny was not satisfied and told her husband that he would sooner or later be abandoned by his mistress. After leaving the house, Miho was anxious. He didn't know how Jenny found out about his mistress. Miho thought long and hard and came to the conclusion that Jenny must have investigated him behind his back. He couldn't help but worry that if his father-in-law found out, he would definitely be disgusted with him. The next day, Sora made a sumptuous lunch and invited Miho to celebrate with her. Miho looked at Sora in front of him and tried to say something several times, but stopped himself. However, for the sake of his current status and reputation, he finally said what he wanted to say. Sora panicked when she heard Miho say he wanted to break up with her. She kept saying sweet things to Miho. Miho immediately softened his heart after hearing her words. Jenny's decision to fire Sora made her daughter very angry. Lucy said that Jenny was not a good mother for arbitrarily changing her teacher. Her grades had improved and she was passing her homework because of Sora. Moreover, Sora understood what she wanted. Lucy believed that her father and mother always imposed their own ideas on her. Jenny looked at her daughter's desperate pleas and was determined not to compromise on this matter. After all, She was just a child and couldn't understand adult emotions. Lucy ran back to her room in tears and didn't respond to her mother's calls. She didn't know that her mother was also crying her eyes out at that moment. To confirm her guess, Jenny took the address she got from the mall and found the house and the information. But no matter how hard she knocked on the door, there was no response. She could only cry helplessly. After calming down, she found the property management company and said that she wanted to move into the community with her sister and wanted to see the house at the address. The other party told her that she must have made a mistake. The couple who registered did not say that anyone else would be living with them. Jenny was stunned for a moment, but before she could recover, the person gave her the tenant's information. When she heard Miho's name, she still couldn't believe it. Had her husband been pretending to be nice to her in front of others? On the way home, she thought over and over again about what the property management company had said. She was so distracted that she almost got into an accident. Just as she got home, she received a call from the police. The police told Jenny that her father had been reported for fraud because he had borrowed money and not paid it back. They were told to work out a settlement with the other party themselves, or else they would go to jail. Seeing his anxious daughter, her father was filled with guilt. He apologized to Jenny over and over again. He knew that his daughter had not had an easy life after marriage. As a father, all he could do was provide financial support. Jenny couldn't believe it. She asked her father if what the police had said was true. "When did you go bankrupt? Why didn't I know?" Her father chose to remain silent. Jenny followed her father back to his place and was shocked. She packed her clothes and asked her father to take her home, but he refused. Seeing his daughter crying, her father had no choice but to give in. Just as they settled down, the debt collector called again. The other party demanded that Jenny repay the debt according to the contract. Just as he hung up, Miho returned. When he heard from his daughter that her father-in-law was visiting and would be staying at their house for a few days, the smile on his face instantly disappeared. He asked Jenny why her father had come to their home without warning. Did he plan to stay here forever? Looking at her selfish husband, Jenny accused him. "When we got married, my father bought this house for us. You promised that he could stay here as long as he wanted. It's only been a few years, and you've forgotten all about that. Ask your conscience. Who else is more qualified to live here than your father?" The two argued back and forth and finally parted on bad terms. Feeling deeply ashamed, Jenny went to her father's side and gently covered him with a quilt. She looked at her sleeping father and wondered when he had become so old. When did she start neglecting the person who loved her the most? Jenny finally managed to calm her upset daughter, but two men burst into the house. She instinctively shielded her frightened daughter, knowing the men meant trouble. Lucy, who had learned about self-defense, lied and said she was going to a classmate's house. She ran to the beauty salon and found her mother's close friend Jaiwan, claiming that two strangers had come to the house. Everyone was confused, wondering if the children were lying. Seeing her determined expression, they didn't think she was lying. They decided to call the police immediately. Lucy was smart enough to realize that if they called the police, her mother might be in danger. She grabbed her aunt and ran home, calling the security guard along the way. Meanwhile, the two thugs at home were wreaking havoc, smashing everything in sight. In no time, the house was in complete disarray. The commotion alerted the neighbor, Hae-suk. Though they didn't get along, she couldn't stand by and do nothing. She ran out and happened to meet Lucy, who was calling for help. A group of people rushed into the house. After hesitating for a moment, they decided to confront the thugs, but they were no match for them. The thugs were frustrated. They were ugly women who looked worse than Piggy 8. Seeing the chaotic scene, Jenny broke down. She screamed wildly, telling them all to get out. Fortunately, the thugs had some sense of morality and didn't linger. Before leaving, they told Jenny to relay a message to her father. No matter where he went, they would find him. Worried that her father might return, Jenny told the others to leave. Jaiwan stayed behind to find out what had happened. Jenny just wanted to clean up the place before her father returned. She remained silent about her best friend's question, but someone who had been protected by her father since childhood had never experienced anything like this. Jenny finally couldn't hold back and broke down crying. Her father had worked hard all his life for her. She was supposed to protect her father from the storms of life, but she found it too difficult. After Jaiwan's repeated questioning, she finally told her the truth. Jaiwan was deeply saddened to learn that Jenny's father had not only gone bankrupt but also owed a lot of debt. She felt sorry for Jenny and comforted her, saying not to worry too much because she still had her husband. Over the years, It was thanks to Jenny's father's help that Miho had achieved what he had today. But Jaimon had no idea that all the money Jenny's father had borrowed had been spent on Miho. After calming down, Jenny looked at the shattered family photo. She wondered how she would tell her husband about this. Just then, she received a text message from Miho. Miho claimed that a colleague's father had suddenly passed away, and he had gone to attend the funeral. Jenny was furious upon reading her husband's message. She never would have guessed that Miho was actually having an affair with another woman. The next morning, Miho returned home dressed in his best attire. He explained that he had received the news suddenly the previous day and hadn't had time to inform his family before rushing over. He then complained about how many funerals there had been recently. Jenny didn't believe Miho's explanation and asked him how many more people he planned to kill. Miho panicked but still had the nerve to defend himself. He said he had stayed up all night with his colleague's family and hadn't closed his eyes once, and was completely exhausted. Jenny just stared at him without saying a word. Miho felt guilty but still argued, "Do I have to lie about something like this? Or should I call the person who was handling the funeral and confirm it for you?" He didn't expect Jenny to agree to his suggestion. Miho used the excuse of taking a shower and hurriedly left. At that moment, his phone rang. Jenny hesitated but picked it up. Seeing that it was Principal Zhao, she answered the call. As soon as she opened her mouth, the other party hung up. This made her suspicious, and Sora on the other end of the line was also very nervous. When her father found out that his son-in-law hadn't come home last night, he thought that the couple must have had a fight because of her. He felt very guilty, thinking that it was all his fault that his daughter had to live such a hard life. Jenny told her father not to worry too much, saying that Miho was just busy with work and would come home soon. She said she would find a way to solve the debt problem herself. Back in the bedroom, looking at the man pretending to be asleep, Jenny asked him directly, "How much have you been hiding from me? Was Sora's apartment also rented with your money?" Miho tried to justify himself, saying that Sora couldn't afford to rent a place. He claimed that she had helped him so much at school and even tutored his daughter, so he had offered to assist her. Jenny posed the final, soul-searching question, "Was yesterday's funeral real?" Miho once again answered affirmatively. Jenny ignored the man in front of her who was full of lies and staggered out the door. Miho could only stand there and slap himself in the face. Just as she walked out the door, Jenny received a call from a friend. They asked her why she didn't come to the party yesterday. Even Miho's busy colleagues brought their families. Jenny immediately realized that her husband was lying. Lucy also told her mother that she had run into Sora downstairs yesterday. Not long after, her father asked her to go home first because he had something to discuss with Sora. Listening to her daughter's words, Jenny's last shred of hope was shattered. After calming down, she told her husband that she already knew what he had been doing these past few days. Jenny then asked her husband how many colleagues he had. Miho was taken aback by the question. He really didn't expect his usually silly wife to know everything. Miho was distraught, but after calming down, there was no hesitation in his eyes. He sent Sora a text message saying that they would no longer be in contact. Sora and Miho had long been addicted to their game. She ran over to ask Miho why he wanted to break up for no reason. Miho called his wife in front of Sora and told her that he would keep his distance from Sora in the future and that he had never forgotten his family. What Miho didn't know was that his wife had been racking her brains over her father's debt problem. Jenny was afraid that it would affect his work, so she took everything upon herself. Because the debt had been outstanding for so long, the creditors found Miho. He learned from them that his father-in-law had gone bankrupt and owed a lot of money, and was hiding. Miho couldn't accept this reality. What was even more painful was that his wife had agreed to pay off her father's debt in order to settle the matter. The more Miho thought about it, the more he felt resentful. He returned home in a rage. He asked Jenny why she had kept her father's bankruptcy a secret from him, and signed a settlement agreement with someone else without his consent. This extremely selfish man blamed everything on others. He never looked at himself for the problems. On the day his father-in-law moved in, he was busy playing games with his students. On weekdays, he either came home late or didn't come home at all. Jenny didn't even have a chance to discuss it with him. Now that he knew about the bankruptcy, instead of comforting his wife, he was only concerned about whether his father-in-law had become penniless, and whether he would still be able to give him money in the future and whether he would still have property to inherit. Jenny told him that her father now had nothing. In the future, she would not only have to take care of him, but also pay off his debts. Besides, the money my father owes is money we spent. Miho was stunned. He didn't want to help his father-in-law pay off his debts. He rebuked his wife with righteous indignation. saying that he had never spent his father-in-law's money. He had bought the house and the car for them himself. Why should he help her father pay off his debts? Miho warned Jenny viciously. If she dared to touch his property, he would not let it go. With that, he stormed out the door. Miho didn't care about his father-in-law's feelings at all and thought he was the victim. He went to a bar alone to get drunk. Miho got drunk and ran to Sora's house to seek comfort. This scheming woman looked at Miho sleeping soundly and had an idea. At home, Jenny received a text message from Sora showing off. Jenny was furious when she saw her husband sleeping soundly in someone else's house. She stormed to Sora's house, rushed forward, and shook her with all her strength. Miho, perhaps sobering up, saw Jenny in front of him and panicked. Sitting up abruptly, Sora thought this was the perfect opportunity and rushed forward to block Miho. She accused Jenny of not letting Miho sleep. Miho, who was always busy with his career, must be exhausted. As his wife, she should turn a blind eye to everything. Hearing this, Jenny slapped Sora across the face without hesitation. Miho was confused as to how Jenny knew he was here. Sora smugly admitted that she had told Jenny. Jenny looked at Sora triumphantly and wanted to beat her to death. Miho stopped her and shamelessly said that Jenny, as the wife of a professor, had no right to cause trouble at someone else's house in the middle of the night. He then said that he was only here because he got drunk and didn't mean to come. Miho's shamelessness broke Jenny's heart. She didn't want to see this hypocritical man anymore and ran out of the door crying. Miho was afraid that Jenny would tell on him, so he ran after her. But he had no remorse. Facing Jenny's accusations, he scolded her for lying to him first. What right did a woman who lied to her husband have to blame the man who supported her family? He then said that she shouldn't always think that he was only in his position because of his father-in-law. Even without his help, he would still be doing very well. Miho claimed that he would never help his father-in-law with a single penny. Even after being slapped, the man was still invincible. He was only doing this to make his life a little easier. Sacrificing his father-in-law was a small price to pay for a peaceful life for his family. Miho then warned Jenny that if she wanted to continue being a professor's wife, she had to be more careful about her words and actions. He left his devastated wife without looking back. Jenny could never have imagined that the man she had lived with for more than 10 years could be so heartless and ungrateful. The next day, Jenny received another call from Sora. Because Miho had left in such a hurry yesterday, he had accidentally left his wallet at her house. She was afraid that it would affect Miho's class, so she asked Jenny when she would be free to pick it up. Faced with Sora's provocation once again, Jenny held back for the sake of her daughter. Miho still refused to accept his father-in-law's bankruptcy. He checked and rechecked to make sure that the information was correct. How could someone who was worth hundreds of millions suddenly become penniless? Miho received more bad news. At that moment, he finally understood that from now on, he would have to rely on himself. On his way home, he became more and more irritated, thinking about having to face Jenny's endless accusations when he got home. Miho immediately turned around and drove to Sora's house. He thought he could relax, but Sora told him that she was pregnant. Miho was stunned. This was not part of his plan. Faced with Sora's expectant gaze, Miho said a few perfunctory words and then fled, feeling guilty. Perhaps because he had done too many things he felt guilty about. Miho, who hadn't been home for a long time, returned home early today. His father-in-law looked at his son-in-law, whom he hadn't seen in a long time. He sincerely apologized to Miho for going bankrupt. He believed that it was his own fault for dragging down their lives. He then assured Miho that as long as he was alive, he would work hard to earn money and pay off the debt. Faced with his sincere father-in-law, Miho only gave a perfunctory reply and returned to his room. Jenny watched her father do all this and felt very sad. Before long, she received another message from Sora saying that she had something important to discuss with her. Jenny didn't want to deal with this crazy woman for a second longer. However, Sora didn't give up and called the next day. Because it concerned Miho's reputation, Jenny had to meet with her no matter what. Although Jenny really didn't want to see this woman, she still went to the meeting. As soon as Sora saw her, she boasted that she was pregnant with Miho's child. Jenny had already given up on her husband and wasn't angry at all. She told Sora to go ahead and have the child, so that the outside world would know that a professor who raised children was actually doing such a thing behind their backs. Besides, Miho was famous, so he could use this incident to make his name even more famous. Jenny told Sora to move out of the apartment immediately, as it had been rented with her father's money. Sora completely ignored Jenny's warning. Instead, she demanded that Jenny divorce Miho immediately. Why should two people with no feelings for each other continue to live together? It's better to let go now before things get too ugly, so no one will be embarrassed. After saying that, she left arrogantly. Coincidentally, Haesuk overheard their entire conversation. When Jenny returned home, she felt sick thinking about what they had done. Was her sincere devotion over the past decade only worth being hurt over and over again? Miho came home drunk in the middle of the night and fell asleep calling Sora's name. Jenny looked at the man she had lived with for over a decade and wanted to kill him. She asked her husband if he had sorted things out with Sora. Jenny asked Miho to stop giving her father dirty looks every day. Her father had gone bankrupt and was already feeling bad. Faced with Jenny's accusations, Miho was very impatient. He was really tired after a day of work, and when he got home, not only could he not rest, but he also had to face his father-in-law and Jenny's nagging. He had only made one mistake with Sora, and it was already over. Why did she keep bringing it up every day? Jenny suppressed her anger and said, "Congratulations on Sora being pregnant with your child." Miho slapped Jenny across the face upon hearing this, but the next moment, he pretended to be pitiful. Although he had already set his heart on leaving, he was now a professor with a certain status. He feared that if the couple exposed their marital issues, he would lose everything he had built. However, Jenny no longer wanted to hear his insincere apologies. It was Miho who made the mistake, so why should she be the one to suffer? Jenny decided she couldn't take it anymore and immediately gave up the apartment without hesitation. Unable to enter the apartment, Sora went to Miho to complain. Miho asked Jenny why she was so heartless. A student with no income and no place to live. Where was she supposed to go? He had promised to take care of everything, so why was she messing up his plans? Jenny didn't want to talk to him and told him to get lost, but Miho acted like he didn't care and reached out to Jenny for money. "The debt collector is here again. Hurry up and give me the money so I can pay your dad back." Then he started arguing with Jenny again. Sora was just pregnant and still under her control. He had to take advantage of the situation and get rid of her with money. He even asked Jenny, "Isn't this what you've always wanted me to do? Why are you doubting me?" Jenny was indeed too naive and was easily persuaded by Miho's few words. She immediately took out the last bit of money in the house, but as soon as she turned around, Miho had already started plotting again. He paused for 3 seconds before frantically searching through the drawers and finally found the property deed he had been dreaming of. Miho turned around and gave all the money he had just taken from his wife to Sora. He even said that he agreed to let Sora keep the child. Miho even acted like a good husband and accompanied Sora to her prenatal checkup. Jenny didn't know that Miho had taken the money and didn't keep his promise until she received a call from the debt collector. The other party wanted to mortgage the house, but she found that the property certificate was missing. Jenny finally managed to contact Miho. However, he flatly denied taking the property certificate. What Jenny didn't know was that Miho was with Sora at that moment. Miho knew that his wife would find out everything sooner or later, so he had to strike first. After much deliberation, he decided to transfer the house to Sora's name. He asked her to go home and get the seal. Unexpectedly, he ran into Jenny on his way out. Jenny finally realized that the person who had hurt her was right next to her all along. What's more, it was her classmate's sister. No wonder Haesuk had been trying to get close to her lately. It turned out that she already knew everything and had been treating her like a fool. Despite Haesuk's desperate explanations, Jenny didn't want to listen to her anymore. Haesuk told her that she had warned her to keep an eye on the man in her family. Although Sora was her younger sister, she was already an adult and she couldn't do anything about what she had done. Besides, it wasn't anyone's fault. When Haesuk returned home, she looked at the useless Sora and was filled with anger. Sora asked her sister why she was treating her like this. This made Haesuk even more furious. She was about to step in again to teach her sister a lesson for Jenny. Out of maternal instinct, Sora took the opportunity to run out. Sora didn't care if she was injured. She endured the pain and ran as fast as she could, finally breaking free from her sister's grasp. When she successfully changed the property deed with Miho and gained full ownership, she finally felt unwell. She didn't think much of it, as there were more important matters to attend to. She followed Miho, using the money she had deceived from Jenny, to rent a new place. This scheme was so despicable that even heaven couldn't bear to watch. Just as the two were dreaming of a bright future, karma struck. Sora collapsed on the ground in excruciating pain. Miho rushed her to the hospital. In the end, even the child rejected this family and chose to leave. When Miho heard that Sora had lost the baby, he felt relieved. But Sora, who had lost her child, blamed Jenny for everything. When she got home, Sora angrily said to Miho, "If you had divorced Jenny, I wouldn't have to hide every day. I wouldn't have had to beg her and let her hit me. Sora lied without even blinking. And Miho believed her. Miho believed the lies and rushed home in a hurry. He just gave Jenny, who was busy, a cold look before entering the room to pack his things. When Jenny confronted him, Miho instead accused her of being a respectable professor's wife who turned out to be such a terrible woman. You actually used violence against Sora, such a young girl, causing her to miscarry. Jenny looked at her husband in front of her and wondered how he could say such things to a woman like Sora. Sure enough, he was just like Sora, shamelessly showing his true colors. She knew that even if she defended herself, her husband would not believe her. In his anger, Miho slapped Jenny across the face. This time, Jenny finally fought back. How could the person who did something wrong have the nerve to hit someone else? A well-read professor with the appearance of a gentleman was nothing but a piece of trash, completely unworthy of being an educator. Jenny then condemned Miho, saying that she had endured all this for her father, for her daughter, and even more so for her pitiful self-esteem. As a result, she was falsely accused of hitting Sora. The more Jenny spoke, the more emotional she became, thinking about how painful her life had been, and she finally broke down. Miho remained unmoved and said that he would move out for a while to let both sides cool down. Helpless, Jenny made a concession. As long as her husband returned to the family, she would forget everything that had happened during this period. What a foolish woman! Miho's heart was clearly no longer here, yet she was still desperately trying to keep him. She asked her husband to look at it from a different perspective. Even if he didn't consider her, there was still their daughter and her father-in-law. They all needed him. As long as they worked hard together, everything would be fine. Miho said all that just to avoid his debts and escape. He asked Jenny, "All the sacrifices you've made for me over the years were for your father and daughter. I'm not even my daughter's real father. Now that we've come to this point, why are you still trying to tie yourself to me?" Jenny was stunned. She never knew her husband felt this way. Miho finally left without hesitation, leaving Jenny alone to cry. The next day, feeling guilty, Haesuk sincerely went to Jenny's house to apologize. However, she learned from Jenny that Miho had blamed Jenny for her sister's miscarriage. Miho had even moved out of the house. Haesuk felt that she had to do something. Unable to contact her sister, she went to the school to ask Miho. Miho was still pretending to be Sora's mentor, but how could he know where his students were? Haesuk scolded him. "Are you pretending to be stupid or are you just shameless? How did a disgusting person like you become a professor? I'm only tolerating you because of my sister. Otherwise I would have destroyed you long ago." Haesuk left in a hurry, leaving Miho furious and smashing things. Without a doubt, Miho blamed his wife again. He thought that Jenny had spread rumors, which caused others to come and yell at him. Miho poured boiling water from a kettle onto Jenny's face. After returning home, Jenny received another call from the debt collectors. If she didn't repay the debt within a week, they would sue her father and send him to prison. At that moment, Miho's phone was unreachable. What she didn't know was that her husband, who looked like a gentleman, was on a TV show boasting about himself. His hypocritical facade charmed many female viewers. After the show, Jenny confronted Miho, asking him if he hadn't taken the last bit of money from the family to pay off the debt. Miho replied smugly, "If I hadn't said that, would you have given me the money? Why should I help someone with no blood relation pay off their debt? Our marriage has always been nothing but a transaction. You were pregnant and needed someone to take responsibility, and I married you because I had no money. You keep talking about how much your father-in-law did for me, but I've been raising someone else's daughter for all these years." Jenny felt as though 1,000 arrows had pierced her heart upon hearing Miho's words. She couldn't escape reality because she still needed to help her father repay the debt. She considered mortgaging the house to pay off the debt, but was told that the property had already been transferred to Sora. Jenny could only go back to her husband and confront him about why he had secretly transferred the house his father had bought to someone else. Miho argued that he did it to protect his property. "You kept saying that your father-in-law paid for the house, but everything we've eaten and used in the past few years was paid for with my money, so this house is definitely mine. Now that we've ended our marriage, what's wrong with keeping a little bit of my assets?" Jenny never dreamed that Miho could be so cruel. Miho ignored Jenny, who was falling apart, and turned and left. Helpless, Jenny had no choice but to go find Sora. Sora deliberately lured Jenny to Miho's office and pretended to be the lady of the house. Then she told Jenny that she was now the owner of the house. "I didn't want to see you today, but I just wanted to see the person who ruined my child's life in her current state. If you're willing to kneel in front of me, I might consider transferring the house back to you." Jenny finally couldn't help but lash out. But Sora still wouldn't let up. What had she done wrong? "I'm prettier than you and younger than you, and Miho and I truly love each other. Why won't you just let us be?" Jenny slapped Sora across the face. Sora didn't back down and slapped her back. That night, Jenny received another call from Miho. Miho warned Jenny not to cause any more trouble for Sora. This was between the two of them. He didn't want innocent people involved. Jenny couldn't take it anymore and finally mustered up the courage to walk into a law firm. But when she saw people inside arguing fiercely about divorce, she backed out again. Jenny didn't want anyone to see her in such an embarrassing situation. Miho was anxious because he received calls from debt collectors every day. Sora persuaded him to quickly break off the relationship so he wouldn't have to deal with things that had nothing to do with him. If Miho was unwilling to let go because of the child, she would be happy to take the child and live with him. Sora immediately found Lucy. Lucy was very happy to see her beloved teacher. After all, children are completely uninhibited around people they know. In just a few minutes, she told Sora all about her parents' fight. Sora deliberately asked her if she would rather live with her father or mother if they separated. Lucy was on the verge of tears, but Sora continued to press her. "If you live with me, I'll buy you pretty clothes and help you with your homework." Lucy seemed to sense something and ran away after making an excuse to go to the bathroom. She ran all the way home and accidentally bumped into a man and fell down. At that moment, Sora caught up with her. Lucy said she had to hurry home because her mother would be worried about her being gone for so long. Sora said they should finish their ice cream first and that she would call her mother. Soon, Jenny received a call. Sora proudly told her that Lucy was with her and would go home after eating. But when Jenny arrived, her daughter had already left. She warned Sora that if she dared to find Lucy again, she wouldn't be so lenient. Sora still wouldn't give up. "Why won't you let Miho go? If you're thinking about Lucy, you should think it through more carefully." Jenny clenched her fists in anger when she heard this. Sora provoked her, saying that if she had the guts, she should just hit her. Lucy cried and asked her mother if she was going to separate from her father. Why couldn't they be together? Didn't her mom and dad love her anymore? Jenny didn't know how to answer her daughter's questions. Adult matters would inevitably hurt children. She could only cry along with her daughter. At this moment, Miho was happily eating a candlelit dinner with Sora. The next day, Lucy finally got in touch with Miho. She asked her father why he didn't come home, didn't answer her calls or messages, and didn't come to see her. Although Miho knew that Lucy wasn't his biological daughter, he had raised her and had feelings for her. What he didn't know was that Sora had also come to her sister's house to look for her mother. Jenny, who had gone out to buy groceries, had just returned. Several entangled people bumped into each other. Unaware of what was going on, Sora's mother was preparing to introduce her to her daughter, whom she was so proud of. Because of Heisuk's request, Jenny had to keep the truth about Miho and Sora from her. She lied to her, saying that Sora was her daughter's tutor and attended the same school as her husband, so they had known each other for a long time. What should have been a chaotic scene ended up being boring because of Jenny's words. Jenny prepared a lavish dinner to avoid hurting her daughter's feelings. Miho didn't leave because he had something to say. He told Jenny not to encourage others to cause trouble for him and Sora. Jenny didn't want to waste any more words on him. Miho even brazenly said that he would never give up custody of his daughter and would not compromise on the house. Jenny couldn't believe her husband could be so shameless, but no matter how she hit him, Miho just left after saying some vicious words. Lucy didn't understand Jenny either. She thought it was all her mother's fault. She always lost her temper and chased people away, which was why her father didn't want to come home. Back in her room, Jenny thought about what her daughter had just said and felt very sad. After thinking about it all night, she decided to follow her daughter's advice and go to the hospital. Perhaps she was also looking for an excuse to comfort herself. Meanwhile, Miho and Sora, who had been humiliated, were happily shopping at the mall. This scene was just witnessed by Heisuk and Jaiwon. Thinking about all the injustices Jenny had suffered recently, they were furious. The two rushed over and started yelling at them. Seeing the crowd growing larger, Miho sensed trouble and dragged Sora away quickly. Heisuk and Jaiwon weren't going to let them get away so easily and chased after them, but they were too late and the two escaped. The next day, Jaiwon told Jenny what she saw that day. She persuaded her that Miho had already transferred the house to someone else and that she could be kicked out at any time, with debts to pay. If she didn't fight back and get everything she lost back, how would she support her daughter? Then she told Jenny that she had already talked to her sister, who was a lawyer, and that she would help her if she went to see her. Jenny was still hesitant because she had a daughter and didn't want things to get ugly. She called Sora again, hoping to get the house back, but Miho answered the phone and told Jenny not to call Sora anymore. This was their business, and she shouldn't get involved. Miho's ruthlessness made Jenny determined. She mustered up the courage to go find Jaiwon's sister, Eun-soo, but she was told that the house had always been in Miho's name, and the transfer procedures were all legal and proper. All the money earned after marriage was also Miho's, and the evidence was unfavorable to Jenny. Jenny could only leave in disappointment. Fate is indeed mysterious. Her ex-boyfriend, who had disappeared for years, just happened to appear there. He followed Jenny out. After all, the director didn't want them to meet, so they missed each other perfectly. Meanwhile, Sora, who had always wanted Miho to divorce, started causing trouble again. Before long, her father caught her with Miho. Jenny's father looked at the shameless man and slapped him across the face. When he returned home and faced Jenny's questions, her father could only grieve in secret. He finally knew why his son-in-law didn't come home, and he didn't know how much his daughter had suffered in order to keep him from worrying. The more Jenny's father thought about it, the angrier he became. The next day, he rushed to the school to find Miho. He asked him if he really had second thoughts and if he was really going to abandon his wife for someone else. Miho told his father-in-law not to meddle in his business. This was between him and Jenny. He shouldn't think that just because he had helped him in the past, he could boss him around. Jenny's father never imagined that the man he had carefully chosen for his daughter would turn out to be such a traitorous scumbag. Unable to bear it any longer, he raised his hand to slap Miho, but before his hand could fall, Miho grabbed it. Miho loudly rebuked his father-in-law, asking him how he dared to hit him. He had endured it for a long time. Lucy wasn't his child. Not only was she ungrateful, she was also accusing him of all sorts of things. Besides, he had long since lost his feelings for Jenny. Sora was his true love. Miho claimed that he would never go back. With that, he pushed his father-in-law to the ground. The fall sent the old man to the hospital. Jenny, who had been distracted all day, received a call from the hospital. She rushed to the hospital and saw her father lying unconscious in the hospital bed. She was filled with questions. She asked Miho what he had done to her father. Miho was very smug. "Your father went to my school without my permission and asked me to break up with Sara and come back to you. He didn't know his place and came looking for trouble. Otherwise, this accident wouldn't have happened." Jenny scolded Miho, asking him how he could be so immoral. It was clearly his fault that he had caused this situation, yet he was blaming it all on others. Miho immediately said that he had spent so many years helping others raise their child. After saying that, he started to get violent. At that critical moment, Taemin appeared and rushed forward to push Miho away. How could someone who had been on TV actually lay his hands on a woman in public? Was he trying to become famous? Miho was struck right where it hurt and didn't say another word. The thing he feared most was losing his reputation. Jenny didn't want anyone else getting involved, especially someone who had a history with her. Taemin also knew better than to get involved and left obediently, certain that Miho wouldn't dare to lay a finger on him. Miho was a little confused. Where did this meddler come from? He asked Jenny if she had hired someone to follow them. Jenny didn't want to waste any more time with him and told Miho to return the house. Miho, however, refused to budge and said that if she accompanied him on the show to show their love, he would seriously consider the house. After the divorce, Jenny fell seriously ill. After a few days of cooling off and persuasion from her friends, she finally came out of the shadow of divorce. Without a source of income, she had no choice but to work at a convenience store. On her first day at work, Jenny encountered the person she least wanted to see. Sora, of course, wouldn't miss this opportunity to humiliate Jenny. During their conversation, Miho walked in and was startled to see Jenny looking so shabby. How could someone as arrogant as her end up doing such work? Jenny didn't want to waste any more words with them. She asked Miho how the house was being handled and when he could give her the money. Sara told Jenny not to bother Miho. The house now belonged to her, and no one else had the right to handle it. She also said that she would never give him the money if the house wasn't sold. After saying that, she smugly urged Miho to leave, considering that she had just started working and had no way to support her family. Jenny thought about it again and found Miho to ask him to sell the house as soon as possible. She felt that the two of them should just end their marriage completely. Miho finally had a change of heart. He felt that Jenny had to take care of her child and father, so he decided not to sell the house and let them continue living there. Miho's original intention was to let them stay, But the restless Sora wouldn't let him do that. When Miho mentioned to her that they shouldn't sell the house yet and let Jenny and her family stay there for now, Sara agreed on the surface. But she was afraid that Miho still had feelings for Jenny, so she secretly arranged to have the house sold as soon as possible. That day, while Jenny was at work, she received a call from Sara. She told her to rush home within half an hour because the real estate agent was bringing potential buyers to view the house. Jenny had no choice but to take leave and go back. But the arrogant Sora had already arrived. Soon, the real estate agent arrived with the potential buyers. Sara acted like the homeowner and gave them a tour. The buyers were very satisfied with the house and agreed to sign the contract without hesitation. Upon learning that the condition was that they must move out within 2 weeks, Jenny grabbed Sora and scolded her, saying she would get her comeuppance. Sora, however, coldly told her to move out within 2 weeks. This was not a negotiation, but a statement that she would not get a penny. With no other choice, Jenny could only find Miho and ask him if he was bullying her. Had he forgotten the conditions he agreed to when they divorced? How could he go back on his word? Miho was a little confused, but Jenny told him that Sora had already sold the house and demanded that she move out within 2 weeks. But now she didn't have any extra money to move. Miho said he would take care of it and asked Jenny to wait a little longer. A few days later, Jenny still hadn't received a penny. She called Miho in a panic. She asked him why he hadn't transferred the money as promised. She had already found a place and was ready to sign the contract. After hanging up, Miho asked Sora why she hadn't transferred the money to that person. Sora told him what she was thinking. She thought Miho's divorce settlement was too hasty. She believed that Miho's divorce terms were too hasty. She had just asked around and found out that no one would give that much alimony. Moreover, Jenny hadn't earned a single penny after marriage. That house was bought with your money, why should she get half? When we get married in the future, we'll also need to buy a house, which will be a huge expense. Miho accidentally mentioned that Lucy wasn't his biological daughter. Upon hearing this, Sora's mind began to scheme again. Jenny had no choice but to go to Miho's house to ask for money, but she was severely humiliated by Sora. Sora asked her what right she had to ask Miho for money. Jenny thought she could get what she deserved through legal means, but Unsu said that if the other party refused to pay, she would have no choice but to keep appealing. With no other options, Jenny had no choice but to run to Miho's school. She was about to move and had already signed a contract, so she needed the money urgently. Miho said that he didn't have any money either and hadn't received the money from selling his house yet. He told Jenny to wait and that he was already preparing for an advertisement. He also warned Jenny not to come uninvited in the future. He didn't have time to deal with such trivial matters. After saying that, he left without looking back. He was in a hurry to attend a meeting with DL Group to discuss an endorsement deal. Coincidentally, the person in charge of the meeting was Jenny's first love, Taemin, because the company cares most about the image of its artists. During the conversation, Taemin asked about Miho's married life. Outside, "You are known as a good man who cares about his family and his career. Are you sure it's not just a facade or a marriage of convenience?" In order to maintain his reputation, Miho immediately denied Taemin's opinion. On that day, the buyer brought someone else to see the house. Because the renovation would take a long time, she asked Jenny if she could move out early to give her enough time to renovate. Jenny said that she hadn't received the final payment and couldn't rent another place, so she couldn't move out. The buyer told her that the final payment had already been paid and asked if there had been a mistake. Hearing this, Jenny's heart skipped a beat. The next day, she asked Miho to meet her to talk about the money. He had already agreed to it, so when was he going to keep his promise? But Miho told her to ask Sora for the money. Jenny didn't expect Miho to be so shameless. She was blind to see him in the first place. At this point, Miho threw an envelope at Jenny and told her to take the money and move out. This was the final compensation. He didn't want her to contact him again or show up in front of him. Jenny was furious at Miho's beggarly behavior. She threw the envelope away and scolded Miho for being ungrateful. Miho picked up the envelope and threw it hard at Jenny's face. Miho was afraid of losing face in public, so he dragged Jenny outside. Jenny threatened Miho that if he didn't transfer the money immediately, she would expose his dirty deeds at school. Miho threatened that if she continued to bother him, he would reveal Lucy's true identity. Taemin happened to hear their conversation and seemed to realize something. To confirm his thoughts, he immediately stopped Jenny, who was about to leave, and asked her to tell him the truth. When they broke up, Jenny never mentioned the child, so she certainly wouldn't tell him now. Unable to get an answer, Taemin couldn't sit still. Back at the company, he immediately arranged for his men to investigate. Meanwhile, Jenny, who hadn't gotten the child support from Miho, was venting to her sisters upon learning that Miho had already received the final payment but refused to give the money, and even worse, had told Jenny to go ask Sora for it. Haesuk and Jaiwan were furious. People from the same camp passing the blame around. This was clearly a refusal to pay, so the two decided to go confront that couple. They went to Sora's house, scolded her first, then dragged her to get the money for Jenny. Sora arrogantly told Haesuk that Lucy wasn't Miho's daughter, so why should she pay child support? She had already raised her for years out of kindness. Haesuk and the others were stunned. What was going on? Confused, the two of them went to check it out themselves, but they thought that Sora must be lying. How could a straight-A student like Jenny do something so ridiculous? After discussing it, the two decided to keep what they heard today to themselves. Since they didn't get the money, they had to move out immediately. Haesuk suggested that Jenny move into her house first. They would consider finding a place to live once their financial situation improved. With no other choice, Jenny had no choice but to agree. Soon, the day of the move arrived. People from upstairs and downstairs came to help. Everyone was chatting and laughing, creating a lively scene. Miho also knew that today was Jenny's moving day. Although the two had reached such an awkward situation, they had lived together for several years and inevitably developed some feelings. He was worried that Jenny hadn't managed to raise the money and had nowhere to stay. This made Sora furious, and she vented her anger on Miho. It's none of your business what other people are doing now. You're already married, so why are you worrying about things that don't concern you? Miho ignored Sora's protests and called his ex-wife. Jenny told Miho without reservation that she had indeed moved out. She was now living with Sora's sister. She asked Miho to tell Sora that if she wanted to leave, she should just pay child support. Sora, who had done so many bad things, finally realized that she had dug a hole for herself. Meanwhile, Taemin's investigation was also coming to a head. After they broke up, Jenny immediately married Miho and gave birth to Lucy a few months later. Judging by the timing, the child must be his. A DL Group model had been in a car accident and was unable to shoot. Due to the urgent nature of the project, they didn't think twice and invited Miho to replace her. He was very popular with girls because of his family-oriented image. The condition of the contract was that they could not divorce during the contract period. If they violated the contract, they would have to pay 50 times the contract price as compensation. Miho, who was desperate for profit, wanted to be famous and agreed without hesitation. He also told the other party not to worry about his family life, as everyone could see for themselves. What he didn't know was that the lie he had sworn today would ruin his future. Upon returning home, Miho eagerly shared the good news with his lover. Sora was overjoyed and immediately praised Miho as the best man in the world. When she heard that the shoot went smoothly and he would receive 50 million won in compensation, she was even more excited. Miho then told her that if she could film with her family, the compensation would double. Looking at Sora's expression, it was clear she was unwilling. Jenny, who had settled into her new place, was discussing finding a job with her friends. At that moment, Unsu called and said that DL Group was recruiting new employees with no age restrictions. Jenny felt that this was her chance and decided to give it a try. But as soon as she arrived, she ran into Miho, who was there to sign a contract. Miho saw Taemin and immediately said that Jenny had come to pick him up and hadn't told her. He told Jenny not to worry, saying that he would go home as soon as he was done. Miho lied without even blinking, which was admirable. As soon as Taemin left, Miho immediately changed his attitude. When he found out that Jenny was there for an interview, he was afraid that their divorce would be exposed. Miho told Jenny that he had signed a contract with the company on the condition that he could not get divorced and that there could be no negative news. Jenny naturally refused his unreasonable demand. Miho shamelessly threatened Jenny. If she dared to reveal the divorce, he wouldn't just sit back and wait for trouble. He would expose the reason for the divorce, that she had been pregnant with another man's child, which had caused the marriage to break down. Miho then changed his tone again and said, "As long as you keep this secret for me, once I get the advertising fee, I won't just pay you alimony, I'll compensate you for everything else." How could Jenny believe a man who was full of lies? She would not allow herself to be threatened by him again. Compared to Lucy's background, the exposure of your relationship with a student would attract even more public attention. Miho still wouldn't let it go and asked Jenny, "Are you so confident today because you have a secret that I don't know about?" Soon, the company arranged for Miho to do a photo shoot. Miho may not be a good person, but he does look the part as a model. The company was quite satisfied with his performance and thought that bringing his family along for the shoot would make it even better. The next day, Miho received a call from the company. They asked him how the discussions with his family were going, as the next shoot was about to begin. They needed to confirm the lineup as soon as possible. Sarah firmly opposed the idea as soon as she heard it. The two had already divorced. Why were they still entangled? How could Miho, who wanted to be famous, give up this opportunity? The next day, he asked Jenny to meet him and brought up the idea of a family photo shoot. Without a doubt, Jenny immediately refused. She didn't want to have anything to do with her selfish ex-husband and turned and left. Miho returned to the office and thought long and hard, then decided to use his daughter. Children are easy to deceive, let alone their own father whom they trust. Miho easily convinced his daughter to follow his plan with just a few words. What's worse, Miho even asked his daughter to keep it a secret from Jenny to avoid trouble. So Miho secretly took his daughter to the photo shoot. At the same time, Jenny received a call from Lucy's teacher asking why she hadn't come to class today. The teacher asked if something had happened. Jenny was terrified. Where could her usually well-behaved daughter have gone? She took a day off and rushed out, coincidentally encountering Tameen and the company's filming crew. As soon as they saw Jenny, they asked about the filming. Your husband and daughter both participated in the filming today. Why didn't you come along? Your daughter performed exceptionally well and saved us a lot of time today. Upon hearing this, Jenny suddenly realized something. Furious, she found the two of them who were having dinner. Jenny grabbed her daughter and left. Miho shamelessly chased after them and apologized to Jenny. Because time was tight, I didn't have time to notify you beforehand and took your daughter away. Lucy cried. Daddy, didn't you say you already told Mom? Miho saw his lie exposed but didn't care anymore. He thought, as Lucy's father, even after divorce, didn't he have the right to see his child? Upon hearing that her parents had divorced, Lucy ran out sadly. Jenny saw this and chased after her. Miho could only stomp his feet in frustration, knowing that the worst was yet to come, because their earlier conversation had been overheard by Tameen. As the saying goes, what goes around comes around. Miho's good days were numbered. Tameen immediately ordered an investigation into Miho's marital status. Miho had not only violated the terms of his contract but also caused negative publicity for the company. DL Group decided to file a breach of contract claim against him. Miho was still making a last-ditch effort, saying that he wasn't divorced when he signed the contract. When faced with the results of the investigation and the evidence, he was finally speechless. At this moment, Sarah was leisurely looking through Miho's handsome photos at home, dreaming of a beautiful future for the two of them. When Miho returned home in a state of rage, she woke up from her dream. Sarah panicked when she learned that the man she loved was facing huge compensation because his divorce had been exposed. Miho blamed Sarah for not giving Jenny child support, which led to the current situation. Sarah immediately shifts the blame to Jenny. It must have been her who reported it. Otherwise, how would anyone else know about it? Two extremely selfish people only look for reasons in others and never reflect on themselves. The next day, Miho rushes over to confront Jenny and, without saying a word, removes her makeup. This selfish man clearly didn't consider the consequences of his actions in order to become famous. But now that something has happened, he blames others. Faced with Miho's verbal abuse, Jenny didn't hold back this time. After being slapped, Miho started to go crazy. It's because you've been using your position to play dirty behind my back. Jenny asked him who was the one who had been playing dirty all along. A respectable university professor was having an affair with his student, hiding it from his wife and transferring his assets. After the divorce, he didn't give her a penny in alimony, almost leaving his wife and daughter homeless. Miho believed that Jenny dared to stand up to him because she had someone backing her up. Tameen had defended her time and time again, so their relationship must have been special. Miho was scolded by Haesuk and Jaiwon, who had just arrived. Before leaving, Miho shamelessly warned Jenny to go to the company and explain the situation between them as soon as possible. Although they are legally divorced, they are still on good terms. If she doesn't do as he says, he won't let her off if something happens to her. Haesuk and Jiwon couldn't stand it anymore. They advised Jenny to fight back. It was Miho's fault that they got divorced, so why should she be threatened by him every time? Jenny said directly that she would not let Miho manipulate her anymore. She had endured so much for the sake of her child, but now she had nothing to worry about. The shameless Miho left and immediately posted an article online, claiming that he and Jenny were still in love and that it was just a few minor issues that led to their divorce. He also said that the two had already communicated and would remarry soon, and demanded that DL Group explain its breach of contract. This article undoubtedly pushed Taemin and the company into a difficult position. Taemin found Jenny and asked her to come forward and expose Miho's statement. After all, this matter had a huge impact on the company. If it wasn't handled well, no one could easily bear the loss. Boonsu also found Jenny and hoped that she would reveal the truth. As a friend, she advised her not to keep it to herself anymore. Faced with pressure from both sides, Jenny didn't know what to do. Just then, she received another call from Miho. Miho started by threatening that if Jenny dared to say anything, he would make sure she lost her husband and everything else. His words completely enraged Jenny. After hesitating for a moment, Jenny immediately called the reporter and asked to meet. She then confessed everything to the reporter. The two had already ended their marriage before the DL Group's program was broadcast. However, for the sake of her ex-husband and child, she had cooperated with him and acted out the charade. She now realized that what she had done was wrong and apologized for misleading the public. Sure enough, Jenny's statement quickly spread across all major media outlets. All of Miho's interviews were taken down by the media overnight. Advertising sponsors also canceled their cooperation with him. Furious, Miho found Jenny again and asked her to change the interview immediately. All of his work had been cancelled because of her remarks. If she didn't clarify the situation to the public and restore his reputation, he didn't know what he would do next. Jenny rebuked Miho, saying that he would have to pay back what he had gained through deception sooner or later. She told Miho that he should be grateful to her for stopping there. If he provoked her again, she would reveal all the juicy details. Seeing that Jenny was out of control and the rumors were spreading, Miho felt like he was going crazy. Sara felt that she had to do something for Miho. She took the initiative to contact a reporter and claimed that she had some big news. As soon as they met, she couldn't wait to tell the reporter that Lucy was not Miho's daughter. Instead, Jenny had secretly become pregnant before their marriage. The kind Miho hid his divorce from the public so as not to hurt his daughter. He had always hoped to remarry Jenny, but Jenny refused and spread rumors online to discredit Miho. This hypocritical woman is morally corrupt, yet she lies so convincingly. The reporter didn't care if Sora's story was true. All she wanted was news to entertain the public. When Miho found out that Sora had intentionally told the reporter that Lucy wasn't his biological daughter for his sake, Miho was furious at first, even though he had a strained relationship with Jenny. After all, the daughter was raised by him and was no less than his own flesh and blood. However, Sara told him that the only way to turn the tables was to direct the blame toward Jenny. Miho felt a pang of guilt on the surface, but if he could really use this to save his career, he would rather keep quiet. Soon, Sora's remarks caused a public uproar. Jenny, who was at work, also saw the report. She panicked and asked for time off to go home and take care of her daughter. When she rushed back, she saw Miho there too. She angrily accused Miho of having the nerve to show his face to his daughter. On the surface, he pretended to love her, but behind her back, he did everything he could to hurt her. Miho, however, was convinced that it was all Jenny's fault. If she had cooperated with him, none of this mess would have happened. Jenny warned Miho that she would not tolerate him bullying her daughter anymore. Miho was stunned. He never expected the timid Jenny to react like this. Because her background had been maliciously exposed, Jenny felt very sorry for her daughter. She couldn't give her a good environment to grow up in, and now she couldn't even protect her daughter. She knew she couldn't be weak anymore. Jenny let go of all her concerns. She was going to take revenge on the people who hurt her and her daughter. The next day, the news of Miho's affair spread throughout the school. When Sara rushed over, her face turned green. She hurriedly tore down all the posters and took them away. When she got home, Sara vented her anger on Miho. She didn't understand what she had done wrong and why she had to suffer such injustice today. Sara believed that it was all Jenny's fault. She and Miho were true love. Why wouldn't Jenny let her go? After venting her anger at home, she ran to Jenny's workplace in a fit of rage. Sara wanted to use the same method she had used before to scare Jenny, but Jenny was no longer the weak woman she used to be. She slapped Sara several times across the face. Miho's once-packed lectures were now empty. The blackboard was covered with slogans demanding he be dismissed. The principal came personally and said meaningfully that Jenny was a smart person who would never do anything unprofessional. Miho still refused to admit anything. claiming it was all made up. It was clear the principal didn't want to make a big deal out of it. If the content of the posters wasn't true, he told Miho to provide proof. Furious, Miho called his ex-wife and asked to meet her, but Jenny refused without hesitation. Miho ran to the company entrance and blocked Jenny, asking her to write a statement clearing his name. Jenny refused, but Miho wouldn't give up and tried to hit her. The two were struggling when Taemin saw them. He stepped forward and pulled Miho away. His former professor had become so ungentlemanly that he was fighting with a woman. Seeing that he wouldn't get anywhere by continuing the fight, Miho left. Before leaving, Miho threatened Jenny that if she didn't do as he said, he would never let her off the hook. Embarrassed and depressed, Miho went out and got drunk. When he returned home drunk, he saw Sora leisurely drinking wine. She had caused trouble and didn't even want to clean up, yet she still had the heart to drink at home. Sora wasn't a pushover either. She still thought she was in the right. Sooner or later, their relationship would be exposed. Wasn't it better that everyone knew now? Miho was furious that everyone was gossiping about them. Could they just pretend not to know or hear anything? Sora was still self-righteous. She suggested that they find a quiet place where no one knew them and live there. How could Miho give up his current status and position? It had taken him so many years to achieve what he had today. How could he just give it up? He told Sora not to daydream. This was real life, not a novel. The two had a big fight, which ended with Sora giving in. The next day, the principal went to find Miho again. Before the principal could even start talking, Sora began her performance. All of these lies were made up by Jenny because she was unhappy that her daughter's affair had been exposed. She fabricated these stories to hurt me. I am the biggest victim in this whole affair. With her tears and snot running down her face, it was clear that digging deeper into the matter would not be good for the school. Sora had put on this show for them, so it was enough of an explanation. The school decided to let the matter drop and not pursue any further action against Miho. As soon as he caught his breath, Miho immediately shared the news with Sora. Sora's eyes darted around, and she was already planning her next move. Since Jenny had taken this step, she had no intention of backing down easily. To completely defeat this teacher and student, she discussed it with her friends and decided to expose all of Miho's dirt. They split up to carry out their plan. Haesuk took Jaiwon to the rental agency to obtain the two's rental information. She then went to the property department to print out the records showing that Miho had transferred the house to Sora's name. The student representatives at the school were also preparing an anonymous complaint demanding that Miho be removed from the lectern. That day, the student representatives found photos of Miho at the gynecology clinic online. If they could obtain a photo of the two together, they could prove their relationship beyond a doubt. So they went to the hospital to find her and asked her to provide Sora's medical records from that time. But the nurse refused, saying that she couldn't disclose the personal information of patients. After much persuasion from the students, the nurse agreed to meet with Jenny, but she still claimed that she hadn't changed her mind. Jenny told her everything about Miho and Sora. A professor like Miho, who is supposed to be a role model, is misleading students and should have been expelled from the school long ago. At Jenny's request, the nurse agreed to reconsider. Believing that he had been cleared of all wrongdoing, Miho happily asked his daughter out to dinner. It must be said that although this man was not a good person, he was indeed a good father. Lucy inadvertently mentioned to her father that she had seen Taemin. Upon hearing this, Miho immediately became suspicious. Recalling what he had seen recently, he felt that Jenny and Taemin had a special relationship. Miho deliberately brought his daughter to his ex-wife's company to question Taemin about his relationship with Jenny. Taemin didn't want to waste his breath on Miho, but Miho wouldn't let it go. He believed that they must have some secret to hide. He then told Taemin not to see his daughter again. Taemin claimed that he was just visiting an employee's family. You're not even Lucy's biological father, so what right do you have to meddle in other people's business? Miho was furious and wanted to humiliate his ex-wife, but Jenny wasn't going to let him bully her anymore. Just then, Jenny received a text message from the nurse. It was a photo of Miho and Sora together at the obstetrics ward. Jenny immediately showed the photo to Miho and told him to brace himself. Miho panicked and immediately tried to grab the phone, but in front of his daughter, he could only force himself to stay calm. The next day, the group gathered the evidence and went to the principal's office. Miho, who had received the news, rushed to the principal's office. Jenny warned the principal that if he continued to protect Miho, she would have no choice but to expose the information to the media. Not only would the school's reputation be damaged, but the principal's reputation would also be ruined. These words immediately caused the principal to fall into distress. Jiwon told the principal that Miho and Sora were now roommates. If he didn't believe them, he should go check right away, or they would move out secretly. Miho burst in, wanting to stop something that was disadvantageous to himself from happening. Before he could say a word, he was scolded by the principal. Miho, furious, chased after her and grabbed his ex-wife. Jenny warned him not to touch her again, or she would report him for harassment. Miho couldn't believe that the once innocent Jenny had become so assertive. As Miho left, sweating profusely, Jiwon and Jenny couldn't resist teasing him. Coming to his senses, Miho realized the severity of the situation. He hurriedly contacted Sara and told her to pack her things and prepare to move. Before they could finish packing, the sudden ringing of the doorbell startled them. They repeatedly confirmed that it was the property manager before opening the door. Unexpectedly, they were greeted by the school's student representative. The student asked the two if they had been living together. Sora defended herself, saying that she had just happened to come to see the professor to discuss her homework. The property manager said, "Aren't you two living together?" The scene suddenly became awkward. Miho realized that he had lost the battle and collapsed onto the bed. Because of what happened with Miho, Jenny felt most sorry for her daughter. In order to give her child a complete family, she had rushed into marriage with Miho, who was willing to accept her. Jenny also wanted to tell her daughter who her real father was, but she couldn't bring herself to do it. This made Taemin, who had never heard the answer from Jenny, suspicious. From the moment he first saw Lucy, he felt an inexplicable closeness to this child. He felt that she was his sister. For a moment, he felt the urge to see Lucy again. Without asking, he ran to her school to find her. He took Lucy out to lunch and gave her his phone number, so she could call him anytime she missed him. On the way home, the two laughed and talked like a father and daughter. Just as they were saying goodbye, a motorcycle sped by. Taemin rushed forward without hesitation and pulled Lucy away. Although it was a close call, Lucy still accidentally scraped her foot. Taemin quickly treated her wound and wanted to take her to the hospital, but Lucy kindly refused. She felt that her uncle had already wasted a lot of time by taking her out to lunch. Looking at the sensible Lucy, he wished she was his own daughter. Back at the company, Taemin looked at the bloodstains on the handkerchief and had a bold idea. Taemin received a package from a friend. Looking at the test results, he stood up abruptly. He had to get to the bottom of this today. He found Jenny and showed her the test results. He angrily asked Jenny why she hadn't told him that Lucy was his daughter despite his repeated questions. Jenny felt wronged. She had left without saying a word, so how could she have told him? Not to mention how much his mother had opposed their relationship back then. Over the years, Miho may not have been a good husband, but he was a good father. And you disappeared for several years and came back thinking that blood ties make you a father. Jenny told Taemin not to have any illusions about Lucy. Now she was her daughter and hers alone. After saying that, she threw the test results back at him and left. Even though Jenny had said all that, she still couldn't stop Taemin from seeing his daughter. He called Lucy again. Lucy clearly liked her uncle. The two took pictures together and played games. Lucy felt her father's love again. Taemin also saw Jenny's shadow in her. He wanted so much to tell Lucy that he was her biological father. After learning that the two had met, Jenny didn't want her daughter to be hurt again. She found Taemin and asked him not to see Lucy again. Taemin couldn't accept that there was nothing stopping them now and that they could be together again with their daughter. Jenny refused outright. She just wanted to live a peaceful life now. Sora's mother found out about her relationship with Miho. She shifted the blame onto Jenny. Because Jenny didn't answer her phone, she barged into someone else's company. Sara blamed Jenny for telling her mother about her business. She even thought that Jenny did it to put pressure on her and win Miho back. Jenny couldn't listen to it anymore. She said that even if Miho gave her the money, she wouldn't take it. Sara thought that Jenny was jealous of her. Hearing Sora's words, Jenny almost laughed out loud. She wasn't curious about how they were doing and didn't want to get involved anymore. Sara wouldn't let it go and told Jenny to move out of her sister's house immediately. She shouldn't stick around and stir up trouble in other people's families. Jenny told her to hurry up and give her the alimony. When she got home, Sora brought up the subject of her mother. Because of Jenny, she hadn't seen her mother in a long time and felt guilty. Miho suggested they go out to dinner. Two people who had lost their jobs weren't really in a hurry and were in the mood to go out on a date. When they arrived at the restaurant, they saw Jenny and Taemin eating together. Sora felt uncomfortable again and walked over to start trouble. She said in a sarcastic tone that Jenny was ungrateful. It was too much for her to go out on a date and leave her daughter to someone else to take care of. Miho couldn't stand it and tried to pull Sora away, but she didn't stop. Since you found a rich man, just take some money from him and move out. Don't keep staying at my sister's house. Jenny directly picked up a glass of water and poured it on Sora's skirt. Sora was so angry she could have exploded, but she didn't forget to slander Jenny in front of Taemin. Today, I was only being polite because you were here. Taemin had seen everything that had just happened. He didn't want to have anything to do with Sora and got up to leave. Miho, who valued his reputation, also lost face today. He chased after them and asked Taemin what the relationship between him and Jenny was and how far it had progressed. Taemin told him that he and Jenny were going to get married. Miho felt that he was going to lose his daughter completely this time. When he returned home, Sora was still complaining. Miho said that he no longer had any relationship with Jenny and that she should not do such embarrassing things when she saw her in the future. Sora said that Jenny had tricked them time and time again and that they had lost their jobs. She asked Miho why he was still defending Jenny and said that he should be on the same side as her. Miho looked at Sora, who was becoming more and more unreasonable, and left angrily. On the way, he thought of Taemin's words. The daughter he had raised for several years was about to call someone else dad. He felt extremely uncomfortable, so he called Lucy and asked her to meet him. Looking at his daughter, who had become a little unfamiliar to him, Miho felt very uncomfortable. However, his daughter's next words hit him even harder. I saw the news on the internet that dad has admitted that I'm not your daughter. All I want now is MS. Sora, I don't want you anymore. Other classmates whose parents have divorced can still meet and go out to eat together. Despite Miho's repeated apologies, this matter had deeply hurt his daughter's heart. Miho chased after her and coincidentally encountered Jenny, who was searching for her daughter. Jenny told him not to come looking for Lucy anymore. If you truly care about Lucy, don't show up in front of her again. At that moment, Miho finally understood the pain of losing the most precious thing in his life. Miho, who was unemployed, finally managed to secure an interview opportunity through a friend. After sharing the good news with Sora, he rushed out to the interview. However, the company informed him that the interview had been cancelled due to unforeseen circumstances. With no other options, Miho went to a remote area to try his luck. Unfortunately, he received a call from the school on the way. The school had already filled the vacant position, so Miho was told not to waste his time coming. When he returned home and faced Sora's questions, he remembered the series of blows and had to accept reality. Feeling irritable, he drank at home day and night. Sora saw him looking dejected and decided to go out and meet her friends. Miho thought Sora was leaving to avoid him. Sora was also impatient and left without saying a word. Miho suddenly remembered what Taemin had said to him before. Now that he had become like this, they wouldn't have an easy time either. Angry and ashamed, he ran to his ex-wife's house. Miho ran into Jenny, who had just parted ways with Taemin, and blamed her. He asked her how someone who had ruined his life could live so comfortably. Taemin, who was just about to leave, heard Miho's rant. He realized that Jenny must be in danger. Miho's verbal abuse wasn't enough, so he resorted to physical violence. As the two struggled, Miho was pushed away by Taemin, who had returned. However, Miho, emboldened by alcohol, refused to give up and turned his attention back to Taemin. Taemin gave him a severe beating. Then he grabbed Miho by the collar and warned him that if he ever bothered Jenny again, the consequences would be much worse than a single punch. The next day, when Miho woke up from his drunkenness, Sora asked him about the injury on his face. Miho casually replied that he had fallen and hurt himself. He received a call from a friend who said that there was a vacancy at a university. The school leaders were very satisfied with Miho's resume, but due to outside rumors, they still had to consider it. Despite Miho's desperate explanations that he had been framed, the school took a responsible attitude and said they would confirm the truth with the parties involved. Sora was panicked when she heard this. Wouldn't they look for Jenny to confirm the poster incident? For Miho's future, she suggested going to Jenny first to plead for him. Miho strongly opposed the idea. He had already lost enough face. Why should he bow down to the person who had harmed him? He then tells Sora that because of that woman, even Taemin hit him in the face. That being said, how could Sora give up so easily? She finds her sister Haesuk, who lost her job because of the poster incident. Now that she has finally found a place willing to take him in, she hopes Haesuk can help her persuade Jenny to clear Miho's name. However, Haesuk, who is very clear about right and wrong, immediately refuses Sora's request. Sora still had the nerve to go to Jenny. She asked Jenny to spare Miho, considering that he had raised Lucy for so many years. Jenny made her position clear. She didn't want anything to do with them now. Seeing that her low attitude wasn't working, Sora gave up begging and threatened Jenny again with Lucy. But she underestimated a mother's protective instincts. Taming always intentionally or unintentionally uses his work relationship to get close to Jenny. He believes that the two of them have a good chance of getting back together. However, Jenny, who has reservations, has always rejected his advances. She doesn't want to take away the happiness that Unsu has been waiting for so many years because of her. But how can one control their feelings? In order to make Unsu give up, Taemin asks her to have dinner with Jenny. Jaewon asked Taemin about his love life. How could such an excellent man not be married yet? Taemin told her that he had a deep love during college, but because of his family's opposition, he was forced to give up his first love and study abroad. When he returned after completing his studies, he found that she had already married someone else. Just as he was about to give up, she was cruelly abandoned by her husband. Listening to Taemin's words, Jenny felt very awkward, unable to accept the truth. Unsu ran out in tears, worried that her sister might be in danger. Jaewon followed after her. In an instant, the dinner gathering was left with only Taemin and Jenny. Jenny accused him of being so cruel for hurting a young girl's heart in front of everyone. Taemin told Jenny that his mother had always taught him to reject what he didn't like. Today, he had made his feelings clear because he didn't want Unsu to get more involved. Jenny thought the man in front of her was unreasonable and got up and left in a huff. Taemin was unwilling to give up and chased after her. He asked Jenny why she was pushing him away when she knew how he felt about her. Jenny didn't want to continue arguing with him and turned to leave. Taemin grabbed her and kissed her. Miho was having a hard time. Now unemployed, he was hitting a wall in his job search because of the poster incident. Sora didn't think much of it and suggested that the two of them move out of town first. They could get married and have children, and then come back after the poster incident blew over. Hearing Sora's words, Miho knew that he was truly finished. There was no going back. Now, all he could do was shed tears of regret. Sora couldn't bear to watch the man she loved sink any further, so she sought help from an old classmate she hadn't seen in years. The classmate recommended a university professor who said he could arrange for Miho to teach at a rural school. The catch was that they needed 2 billion won in cash to grease the wheels. Back home, Sora stared at the small number in her bank account. Torn. Just then, Miho returned home looking dejected. He said that because he was too famous, no school was willing to accept him. Seeing the man she loved so much in this state, Sora comforted him and told him to cheer up. The next day, she met with her senior again. Under her sweet talk, Sora handed over all her savings. Sora waited eagerly for the good news. When she passed by a wedding dress shop, she kept fantasizing about herself wearing a wedding dress and marrying Miho. When she returned home, she happily shared her joy with Miho. She lied and said that one of her seniors was willing to help her get a job. She then suggested that they go to the countryside together in a few days so that they could prepare for the wedding after they returned. This seemingly perfect plan made Miho feel a little uneasy. Thinking about having to go to the countryside to teach, Miho decided to say goodbye to his daughter before leaving, so he made an appointment to meet with Lucy. Coincidentally, his daughter had also made an appointment with Taemin. Neither of them wanted to see the other man, but they both put up with it for their daughter's sake. Both middle-aged men claimed to be the girl's biological father. The seemingly harmonious dinner was tense and explosive. The two men tried their best not to be ignored. This resulted in an extremely awkward dinner for the three of them. The two men were determined not to give in to each other. Miho told Lucy that he was going to teach in another city and wouldn't be able to see her anytime soon. Seeing his daughter's disappointment, Miho quickly said that he would rush back as soon as she missed him. Hearing this, Taemin immediately said that even if his father wasn't there, she didn't need to worry, as he would take good care of Hannah. Faced with Taemin's provocation, Miho felt very uncomfortable. When Taemin got up to go to the bathroom, Miho followed him and pulled him against the wall. "What are you playing at? Why are you getting close to Lucy?" Taemin said that he was Lucy's biological father and had the right to see her. Miho was so angry that he lashed out. Meanwhile, Sora wasn't idle either. She went to her sister's house to say goodbye to her mother. She was going to follow Miho to live in another city, and the two of them were planning to get married. Upon learning that Sora had come to the door again, Haesuk rushed in. She told Sora to get out, saying that she no longer wanted a shameless sister like her. Sarah came to the living room and was furious to see Jenny there. She warned Jenny to move out of her sister's house immediately. Seeing Sarah becoming more and more excessive, she unceremoniously kicked her out. Unwilling to give up, Sarah sent another text message to Jenny, telling her to come out. As soon as they met, she said smugly that Miho was about to return to the podium. Did she think that the poster incident could ruin them? She would not give up so easily. She even said that the two of them were about to get married. Jenny laughed when she heard this. Although she did not know how Miho got his position, she did not want to know anything about how the two of them lived or what they did. She hoped that he would not meet a student younger and prettier than her in his new environment. Otherwise, Miho would abandon her. Before Jenny could even consider moving, she received devastating news. Her father had been in an accident abroad. Taemin rushed her to the hospital. When Jenny woke up, she frantically tried to leave. She couldn't believe that her father, who had been her only family, was gone. After calming down, she decided to go abroad to bring her father home. Due to the urgency of the situation, she had to go alone. Just as Jenny left, the heartbroken Lucy called Miho. Her grandfather had suddenly passed away abroad, and her mother had gone alone to handle the funeral arrangements. She now felt completely alone and hoped to be with her father. Miho, who had just been discussing marriage plans with Sora, was also shocked by the news. How could his future father-in-law, who had gone abroad for business, have met with such a tragedy? Ignoring Sora's attempts to stop him, he immediately called Jenny and said he would go with her to take care of things. Jenny said that they were already divorced and had nothing to do with each other. Miho became restless. Sora asked why a divorced man would call his ex in front of his current girlfriend. She was very unhappy with Miho's behavior. She then said more firmly that the most important thing now was to go ahead with the wedding dress fitting as planned. Miho had no time to think about that. He asked Sora how someone who was once so kind could become so unreasonable. After saying that, he left without hesitation to pick up his daughter. Sora chased after him, but this time Miho didn't give in and left directly. When Miho returned home with his daughter, Sora looked impatient. Lucy refused the juice Sora offered her. She said her mother had told her not to eat anything random during this time. Lucy casually mentioned Jenny, which annoyed Sora. She complained to Miho in front of the child. Lucy immediately said, "Why are you talking bad about my mom? Why are you trying to take my dad away?" Her words infuriated Sora. Seeing that the atmosphere was wrong, Miho immediately pulled Sora outside. He asked her how old she was and why she was picking on a child. Sora replied that Lucy wasn't his real daughter, so why should he meddle in her business? She told Miho to send the child away quickly, saying that she couldn't guarantee what she would do if she stayed any longer. During dinner, Taemin rushed over to take Lucy home, but Miho didn't agree. Lucy said that she had asked her uncle to pick her up. The teacher didn't like her staying there anyway. Miho was reluctant but reluctantly let his daughter leave. Sora said, "Taemin is Lucy's real father. You're just an imposter. You can't compare to Taemin. Anyway, Lucy's already gone. Let's go try on wedding dresses as planned." Watching Sora's determination, Miho felt like he couldn't breathe. He thought they should reconsider their marriage plans and left. Miho is going to attend his former father-in-law's memorial service. Sora wants to go with him and promises that she won't cause any trouble. Jenny scolds the two shameless people and tells them to leave. Sora responds with rude words, saying that a woman as uneducated as Jenny is the reason her husband chose someone else and left her. In the struggle, Sora pushes Jenny to the ground and shamelessly asks Jenny what she has done wrong, saying that it is Jenny's incompetence that allowed someone to take advantage of her. The scene becomes chaotic as they argue. Seeing Jenny heartbroken, Taemin steps forward to comfort her. Sora started making sarcastic remarks again. Her mother, who had been watching, finally couldn't take it anymore and slapped her. She asked Sora when she had become such a person, daring to come to such a place and cause trouble. She then told her to leave immediately before things got even more embarrassing. Sora was finally driven out. Miho saw this and followed her out to stop her. He asked Sora if she had come today just to cause trouble. Sora didn't hide her true feelings, saying she just wanted everyone to acknowledge their relationship. Why was she always the one getting scolded? Miho looked at the crazed Sora and left her behind. Turning around, Sora saw Jenny and Taemin in the distance and ran over to stir up trouble again. She urged Taemin not to be deceived by Jenny, who had gotten pregnant by someone else before marrying Miho. "Do you really want to marry such a shameless woman?" Taemin said that he was the father of the child and that he was going to marry Jenny soon. so she shouldn't keep trying to break up other people's relationships. These words made Sora extremely angry. Miho, who had left Sora behind, was now at home getting drunk. He didn't even want to answer the phone calls from the student who had made him abandon his wife and child. When Sora returned home and saw Miho drinking the strongest alcohol and acting indifferent, she was extremely angry. Miho said that he was really tired and didn't want to live a life where people gossiped about him anymore. He then broke up with Sora. Sora thought that Miho was just talking nonsense because of the alcohol and that she would never agree to break up. Sure enough, she was just a little worm in a man's belly. After a little bit of coaxing, the two who had broken up the day before were back together again. Jaiwon accidentally found out the secret of Sora's life from her mother-in-law and began to feel uneasy. Thinking back to Sora's reckless behavior yesterday, if the two were really sisters, Jenny would be devastated, so she immediately arranged to meet Haesuk to discuss a plan. Upon learning that Sora might be Jenny's sister, Haesuk was stunned. She hurried home to confirm with her mother. Seeing her mother crying while holding Jenny's father's clothes, she guessed the truth. To prevent Miho and Sora from being together, Haesuk arranged to meet Miho alone. When she learned that the two were getting married soon, she couldn't hold back any longer. Haesuk told Miho the secret about Sora's background. Miho was completely stunned. How could he have done such a ridiculous thing? When he returned home and saw Sora happily choosing a wedding dress, he hesitated repeatedly but finally made up his mind and broke up with Sora. Sora couldn't understand why the person who had been happily discussing marriage with her that morning had changed his mind. She asked Miho why he wanted to abandon her. Miho didn't want to explain too much and directly moved his suitcase out to pack his things. How could Sora let Miho leave without giving her a reason for breaking up? Faced with Sora's persistence and the increasingly complicated relationship, Miho was going crazy. Sora thought that Jenny was the one who had stirred up trouble between them. She immediately ran to Jenny's company to vent her anger. Jenny told Sora that she wasn't interested in men who had been dumped. She also reminded Sora that a man like Miho would eventually move on to someone else. Sora returned home to find an empty house and Miho's suitcase on the bed. In a fit of rage, she smashed her most cherished possessions. Meanwhile, Miho, whom she loved dearly, had gone missing. In agony, Sora drowned her sorrows in alcohol. Jenny accidentally learned the truth from a close friend and broke down. She had intended to ask Sora's mother for clarification, but the words stuck in her throat and she couldn't bring herself to speak. Due to the change in their relationship, Jenny began to worry that Sora might be heartbroken from the breakup. She immediately called Sora, but no one answered. Her intuition told her something was wrong. When they arrived at Sora's house and saw her lying on the bed in a panic, Jenny couldn't help but feel heartbroken and reached out to Miho. The person who used to care about nothing but himself was now filled with regret. He apologized over and over again, saying that if he had known that Sora and Jenny were sisters, no matter how bad he was, he would never have done such a stupid thing. Then Miho knelt in front of Jenny without hesitation. Jenny asked him if he had listened to her and broken up with Sora early on. None of this mess would have happened, but he didn't care and now he had caused such a scandal. Facing the passionate Sora, Miho told her the truth. Sora refused to believe it. She thought that Jenny must have conspired with her family to tell her a lie. She immediately ran home and scolded Jenny. Then she asked her mother if she was really Jenny's sister. Sora looked at her mother, who didn't say a word. She began to blame herself for envying children who had fathers since she was a child. But her mother had never told her who her father was. Now she was telling her that she and Jenny were sisters, and that her mother was the one who had made her into the person she was. Her mother finally couldn't take it anymore and told her the truth. She had indeed had a child with Jenny's father, but the baby was stillborn, and in her pain, she wanted to die. Until one night, a baby appeared at her doorstep. Believing that the baby was her own daughter, she raised her. That child was Sora. Sora knew that she could be with Miho again. She pushed her mother aside and ran out. After all the trouble she had caused, she was just a child who had been abandoned by her parents like trash. Upon learning that Sora was an orphan, Miho wanted to make his beloved happy, so he suggested taking her out to have some fun. As luck would have it, they ran into Taemin and Jenny, who were out with Lucy. Jenny wanted to take her daughter away from Sora, but Sora suggested they all have dinner together. Lucy must have missed her father, so she stayed. While Jenny and Taemin went to order food, Sora started picking a fight. She told Lucy that the reason the man she called uncle was trying so hard to please her was because he wanted to marry her mother. Sora told Lucy not to be fooled. Although children don't understand much about adults, They have their own thoughts. She told Sora that it was the teacher who was lying. She had previously come to her under the pretext of helping her with her homework, but she was actually after her father. You pretended to be kind and deceived my mother and everyone else. Sora was so angry that she almost died on the spot. How could a child of this age be so mean? Didn't her mother teach her how to behave? Lucy said that she learned to be like this from her teacher. This child's aura was much stronger than her mother's. Sora's words hurt a child's feelings. Lucy looked at her father standing beside her, who didn't say a word to defend her, and ran out crying. Seeing this, Miho finally ignored Sora's attempts to stop him and ran after her. Seeing his daughter crying her eyes out, Miho was heartbroken. When he got home, he lashed out at Sora. He didn't understand how adults could hurt an innocent child like that. Sora, however, thought that Lucy would find out about these things sooner or later. She was just saying what they didn't dare to say. Then she mocked Miho, saying that the daughter he talked about every day wasn't his biological daughter. So why did he care so much? This hit Miho where it hurt. He scolded Sora, saying that she wasn't her mother's biological daughter either. So wasn't it ridiculous that her mother raised her like her own daughter? Then he asked Sora how she had changed from a kind and innocent girl into an unreasonable shrew. Sora then received a call from the police station. She learned from the police that the professor she had asked to help her find a job was actually a big fraudster. Sora was completely stunned. This time, she really had lost everything, but she still clung to the hope that maybe the job had been secured despite the money being scammed. She went to the school with a sliver of hope. However, she was told that Miho's name was not on the list of hired professors. Sora refused to give up, believing that the school must have made a mistake, but she was thrown out the door. Upon learning the truth, Sora cried her heart out. Facing Miho's questions, she hesitated to tell him that the senior she had asked to find her a job had been taken to the police station. Only then did Miho realize that Sora had been deceived. He felt that something was seriously wrong and rushed to find his bankbook. He angrily asked Sora why she had made herself so cheap. Miho, however, refused to give up and warned Sora that she must go and get the money back. He ignored Sora's explanations and left without looking back. With nowhere to go, Miho went to a street stall to drown his sorrows in alcohol. Before long, he started acting wildly. Seeing the once promising young man reduced to this state was indeed satisfying. Sora thought about the two of them, now unemployed, struggling to even make ends meet. She, who had recently claimed she wanted to cut ties with her mother, returned home with a thick face, facing the woman who had raised her for over 2 decades. She demanded money. She even said that if her mother couldn't provide it, she would borrow from her wealthy sister. The mother never imagined her once proud daughter would end up like this. Their conversation was overheard by Heisuk outside the door. She burst in and asked Sora why she needed so much money. Her mother was concerned that Sora was asking for money because she was in trouble. Sora told her mother that she had been scammed while trying to buy a position for Miho. The two of them planned to start a business, but they needed money, so they had to borrow it. Heisuk applauded when she heard this. You used tricks to get what you wanted, but in the end, you lost everything. This is your comeuppance. On Jenny's birthday, her daughter deliberately called Miho to create an opportunity for her parents to get back together. After picking up her daughter, the two went to a restaurant to wait for Jenny to get off work. At that moment, Sora called Miho. Miho told her not to treat him like a criminal and to give him some privacy. He then told Sora that he had a date that night and would be home late. Sora's suspicions were aroused again. She asked Miho if he was going to see Jenny. Miho didn't want to hear her crazy ramblings anymore, so he hung up the phone. He had no idea that Sora had already installed a tracking app on his phone. Jenny, who knew nothing about her daughter's plans, declined Tamin's invitation. When she arrived, she found Miho there, and the atmosphere became a little awkward. Lucy saved the day by saying that she had asked her father to accompany her. Jenny didn't want her ex-husband to ruin her mood. She told her daughter to have dinner with her father and go home first while she took care of some things, but in the end, she couldn't persuade her daughter and was forced to stay. Just as they were about to take a photo, Sora appeared. She rushed forward and sat down without saying a word. The hard-won atmosphere was ruined in an instant. Miho told Sora to go home and stop causing trouble. Seeing the two of them arguing, Jenny couldn't bear to stay any longer. She stood up and pulled her daughter away, but Sora wouldn't let it go and accused Jenny of being shameless. She had divorced Miho and caused him to lose everything, and now she was pestering him to help her celebrate her birthday. No wonder her relationship with the professor was getting worse and worse. It was all because of her meddling. Sora then said to Lucy, Your mother is the one who caused your father to become like this." At that moment, Taemin, who had come to find Jenny, rushed over. He suppressed his anger and told Sora not to go too far. Why were they telling the children such nonsense? Taemin didn't want Lucy to get involved in the adults' quarrel, so he decided to take her away first. But Sora, whose jealousy was out of control, wasn't going to let them leave so easily. She immediately told Lucy the truth about her birth. Lucy asked her mother why she had lied to her. She didn't believe that Sora's words were true, no matter how they explained. Lucy ran away crying. Jenny followed her, wanting to take her daughter home. Lucy told her that Miho was doing very badly now. She wanted her mother and father to get back together. Faced with her daughter's pleas, Jenny had no words to say. As soon as Miho arrived home, he immediately started packing his things to leave. Sora wouldn't allow him to do so. To be with Miho, she had nothing left now. Miho felt helpless and angry, but he couldn't bring himself to be cruel. The next day, as soon as Jenny arrived at work, Eunsu found her. She learned that Taemin and Jenny were dating and said that she had always been by his side. She couldn't stand Jenny taking Taemin away from her and questioned her, saying that she was a divorced woman. Now she was coveting Taemin, the man she loved deeply. She hoped that Jenny would take the initiative to break up with him. Taemin was afraid that last night's incident would affect Lucy, so he took the initiative to find her. But his daughter was clearly different from before. She told Taemin not to come looking for her anymore. She didn't want him to keep her mother and father apart. She knew that Miho and Sora had hurt her mother, but Miho was a good father. She now hated Taemin. She asked him why he hadn't stayed with her and her mother if he was her father. Faced with Lucy's questioning, Taemin hurriedly explained. At the time, he didn't know that Jenny was pregnant with her daughter. His mother had forced him to study abroad. When he returned to the country, he found out that Jenny had married someone else. He only recently learned about his daughter's identity. Taemin asks Lucy to forgive him. Miho, who is tired of Sora, just wants to find a job as soon as possible. However, Sora feels that Miho has neglected her. Miho blames Sora for giving the money to the other party without consulting him. How can he comfort her now? The two don't say much and start arguing again. Miho really doesn't want to continue like this. He talks to Sora again, hoping to break up. He thinks that they are always fighting now. Miho really doesn't want to continue being together. Sora thinks that he wants to abandon her and get back together with Jenny. She won't allow Miho to do that. As soon as she finishes speaking, she hugs Miho and won't let him leave. Looking at Sora's little eyes, it's clear that she's up to something again. She immediately found Taemin and urged him to marry Jenny as soon as possible. That way, Miho wouldn't keep thinking about his ex-wife. She suggested that Taemin could use his status as Lucy's father to keep Jenny firmly by his side. Taemin didn't want to deal with the shameless Sora and certainly didn't want to use underhanded means to force himself on Jenny. From then on, Sora wanted to tie Miho to her side. Miho was so exhausted from her pursuit that he could hardly breathe. Sora thought that this was because she loved him so much. In order to keep Miho by her side, she once again asked someone to help him find a job. After much effort, she finally found a cram school that was willing to hire him. However, Miho still couldn't let go of his title as a professor. How could someone as talented as himself go and tutor children? Sora told him that they would soon have nothing to eat. He should be grateful to have a job. Miho had no choice but to face reality and obediently went to the tutoring center the next day. But when faced with the students' questions, he felt that a university professor had fallen so low as to be tutoring them. Miho felt like he had lost all face. The title of professor that he had once held so high was now just teacher. His pride was hurt, and when he got home and faced Sora, who was trying to appease him, he lost his temper. It was all because of her that his life had become such a mess. Not only did he lose his job, but he also lost his home. He broke up with Sora again, but Sora refused outright. She had given up everything since college because she loved him so much. After venting his anger, Miho moved out again, packing his suitcase and getting ready to leave. But how could Sora, the love of his life, let him go? Sora begged Miho with tears and snot, asking him not to abandon her. She promised to behave herself. In fact, Miho didn't really want to leave. Otherwise, how could a man be stopped by a woman? Miho came to Jenny and begged her to give him another chance. Everyone makes mistakes. He was now very sorry for everything he had done. Jenny just glanced at the unreasonable man and left without looking back. This scene was seen by Sora, who had been following them. She didn't expect that the man she begged to stay would treat himself so badly for another woman. She was very unwilling to accept that Miho was going to abandon her. Miho no longer hid his feelings. He was suffocating. He was tired of his current life. He wanted to return to his happy life with his family. After saying that, he ignored Sora's pleas and left impatiently without looking back. How could Sora just let him go so easily? Miho, in a terrible mood due to Jenny's rejection, was drinking heavily in the middle of the night. At that moment, he didn't want to go back to his old home for a single moment. At home, Sora waited left and right but didn't see Miho. Lost in her thoughts, the next day she went to Jenny again to vent her frustration. She warned Jenny not to meet Miho again. Jenny just found it amusing. She told Sora to rest assured, and said that she should thank her for taking Miho away from her. Otherwise, she would have been deceived by his vanity for the rest of her life. Even though Jenny made her position clear, Sora still wouldn't let it go. Just as the two were arguing, Miho appeared. When he returned home and faced Sora's advances, Miho immediately turned on her. He told Sora to stop bothering him and then began to blame her. If it weren't for her, his life wouldn't be such a mess. Sora told him that even if she couldn't breathe, she would stay with him. Seeing this irrational woman, Miho didn't want to stay with her for a moment longer. He grabbed his coat and left. Miho came to the tutoring class after being upset at home, and the students mocked him for being expelled. Facing the students' repeated provocation, Miho picked up a book and threw it at them. The students chased him out and stopped him, saying that as a teacher, he couldn't just hit people like that. No wonder he was kicked out of college. Miho was furious and wanted to hit them again, but luckily the principal arrived and stopped him. At home, Sora also received a call from the school, because Miho had hit someone at school. The other students' parents had come to the school demanding compensation and an apology. At that moment, Miho returned home in a rage. Before Sora could ask him what happened, Miho began to blame her for making him go to the tutoring class and suffer such humiliation. Sora asked him if he wanted to continue being a layabout at home. The two of them had a falling out and began to blame each other. Miho admitted that the biggest mistake of his life was meeting Sora. If it weren't for her, he would have become the principal and wouldn't have divorced Jenny. Seeing Miho's heartless attitude, Sora takes out her business card. Miho, who is drunk, goes to look for Jenny. He happens to see Jenny with Taemin and rushes over in a rage. He accuses Jenny of not respecting him as her husband and of seeing other men. Jenny doesn't want to deal with Miho and kneels down with a thud. He begs Jenny for forgiveness, saying that he knows he was wrong. He regretted losing himself and Jenny. Such a good wife. Jenny had no choice but to call Sora and ask her to come take Miho away. When Sora arrived and saw Miho in that state, she also started venting her anger. The next day, after sobering up, Miho didn't change his attitude towards Sora. He told Sora to move out immediately, saying that continuing this entanglement would only increase their suffering. The person who once swore to her has now changed completely. Sora couldn't stand it. She felt that it was all Jenny's fault that Miho hated her. Sora found Jenny and vented her anger on her. Jenny told Sora to go back and take care of Miho. She told them not to come to her and act out their drama. She wasn't interested in their problems at all. Unsu happened to overhear their conversation. After Jenny left, she approached Sora, who was about to leave, and offered her some advice. Sora then immediately contacted the mysterious person on the business card using a fake identity. After meeting and making the deal, the two immediately began their plan. Back home, Sora asked Jenny to meet her under the pretext of having something important to discuss. As soon as she hung up the phone, she contacted the mysterious person again, who told her that they could start their plan. Meanwhile, Jenny, who was completely unaware of the danger, went out alone to the meeting place. Just as she was about to cross the intersection, a motorcycle speeding at full throttle came barreling toward her. Jenny was so scared she froze in place, but luckily Taemin happened to be passing by. Taemin acted quickly, flooring the gas pedal to block the motorcycle. He hurriedly got off the motorcycle to check if Jenny was injured. Fortunately, Jenny was only scared and unharmed. He quickly turned around to check on the motorcycle driver who had fallen. Unexpectedly, the man pushed him away and tried to flee the scene. This made Taemin feel that something was wrong. Jenny quickly recovered and called Haesuk to tell her that she had just been in an accident. In the end, the man was subdued by Taemin due to his injuries. He demanded to know why the man had fled and if he had something to hide. If he didn't tell the truth, he would be taken to the police station. As they struggled, a photo of Jenny fell from the man's body. Hong Ming threatened the driver that if he didn't tell the truth, he would report him for attempted murder. Fearing being sent to the police station, the driver confessed everything. He claimed he was acting on behalf of a woman and showed the photos he had taken at the time. Jenny never expected Sarah to be so cruel. At that moment, Sarah was waiting at home for news. Frantic with worry, she couldn't help but call the hitman. Haesuk found Sora's house and confronted her about why she had hired someone to kill Jenny. Miho, who was present, looked confused and tried to defend Sora. Haesuk immediately suspected that the two had colluded. Sora told her sister not to make things up without evidence. Haesuk told her that the hitman had already confessed, and he also had photos from the day of the transaction. She warned Sora that if she didn't want to go to jail, she should immediately apologize to Jenny. Sora continued to defend herself, asking why everyone was siding with Jenny and suspecting her. Meanwhile, Taemin, who was concerned about Jenny's safety, arranged to meet with Miho. After seeing the evidence, Miho was completely disappointed in Sora. He returned home angrily and asked Sora why she had become so terrible and why she had done something so wrong. Sora still refused to admit it. Miho told her not to make excuses, as he had already seen the evidence. She had no choice but to admit that she had only wanted to scare Jenny. Miho was very disappointed. How could the Sora who had once fascinated him have become like this? He immediately kicked Sora out of the apartment. No matter how Sora begged him, he remained unmoved. With nowhere to go, Sora was still unrepentant and ran to the building where Miho worked to continue her mischief. She told Jenny not to see Miho anymore. Coincidentally, Miho, who was bothering Jenny, saw this. However, she didn't admit it in front of Miho. Jenny told her that she had evidence of her wrongdoing. If she didn't want to rot in jail, she should get out of there. This move made Sora so angry that she lost her mind. The funny thing was that even her beloved Miho no longer trusted her. After wandering around for a few days, Sora had no choice but to go to her mother's shop. In the end, she couldn't take it anymore and fainted. Her kind foster mother took her home. Haesuk found out that Sora was staying at her house. In order not to hurt Jenny, she told Sora to leave immediately. It must be said that this woman was born to be an actress. Sora apologized to Haesuk, saying that she was really wrong. She said that she had done those things in a moment of confusion. She also said that she would apologize to Jenny and asked her sister to take her in for a few days. She said that she would leave after she had rested. Her mother also spoke well of her, saying that she was her sister after all. Besides, she already knew she was wrong, so she should forgive her. The helpless Tian Shun could only let her stay. Sora pretended to bump into Jenny downstairs, and boasted that she had moved back home and that they were now living under the same roof. She then said that she would keep an eye on Jenny and that she shouldn't even think about contacting Miho behind her back. In the middle of the night, she sneaked into someone else's room to steal their cell phone. She wanted to see if her beloved professor had contacted Jenny. Miho actually called Jenny at that moment. Sora was furious that he had run away from home for several days and didn't even look for her, but instead came to look for his ex-wife every day. With her twisted mind, it seemed that she was about to start trouble again. In the following days, Sora acted unusually obedient. However, Haesuk and the others felt that something was wrong. Jenny, who had just returned from a business trip, called Haesuk to pick her up because she had too much luggage. Coincidentally, Haesuk had to go out to take care of something and couldn't leave. Sora knew that her chance had come and volunteered to help. Jaiwon didn't trust Sora, but she couldn't resist her mother's persuasion. Sora got the chance she wanted. When she arrived at the agreed location, she saw that Miho had not only come to find Jenny, but the two of them were also fighting. This made Sora's blood pressure skyrocket. Seeing that she was about to crash, she stepped on the brakes. Miho hurriedly ran over to help Jenny, but saw a familiar face in the car. Sora panicked and could only choose to flee. When she returned home and faced the injured Jenny, she remained unperturbed and lied to her family, saying that she couldn't contact her, so she came back first. She picked her up and pretended to be concerned about Jenny's injuries, in order not to hurt others. Jenny didn't expose her evil deeds. Miho felt guilty about what had just happened to Jenny and felt that he should do something. He called Sora and asked her to meet him. This lovesick woman thought that her beloved professor had changed his mind. She never imagined that what awaited her was a warning. Miho told Sora to stop doing things that hurt others. Otherwise, they would become enemies when they saw each other in the future. After saying that, he left without looking back, emotionally out of control. Sora blamed everything on Jenny again. When she got home, she threw all of Jenny's and her daughter's things into the water. At that moment, she heard Lucy's voice. Sora started to coax Lucy, but the little girl was still wary of her and ignored her. Sora pretended to be pitiful and claimed that she had apologized to her mother. The two had cleared up the misunderstanding and would get along well in the future. After all, she was just a child and couldn't tell the difference between truth and lies. With just a few words, Sora had deceived her. Sora, having succeeded, took Lucy to find Miho. Now the three of them could live happily ever after. She then told Lucy, "Anyway, your mother is going to marry your uncle. They definitely won't want you, so from now on, you'll live here with your father and me." Miho realized everything. He thought Sora had gone mad. He warned Sora to stay away from Lucy. When Haesuk and the others returned home, they found the toys and clothes abandoned in the bathtub. Such a despicable act, there was no need to guess who did it. Haesuk and her daughter suggested that Sora should move out of the house immediately. Otherwise, who knew what might happen in the future? At that moment, they discovered Lucy's backpack lying on the ground. After searching the entire house, they couldn't find anyone. The group felt that something was terribly wrong. They suspected that Sora had taken her away. Worried that something might have happened to Lucy, they tried to contact Jenny but couldn't reach her. Meanwhile, Miho took Lucy to look for Jenny but ran into his ex-wife with Taemin. Jealous, he didn't want his daughter to see Taemin, so he deliberately told Lucy that they were going to eat her favorite pasta and that her mother would come find them later. Miho took his daughter to the beach. Out of selfishness, he told Lucy that he had already spoken to her mother and that the two of them could play to their heart's content today. But in reality, Jenny was going crazy because her daughter was missing. Desperate, they even reported it to the police. Miho deliberately told Lucy that he had already notified Jenny. He asked Lucy to beg Jenny to get back together with him. That way, the family of three could return to their old life. Miho knew he had done wrong and hoped his daughter would forgive him and help him get back together with Jenny. Lucy was young, but she wasn't completely ignorant. She told Miho that because he and Sora had hurt her mother had been angry with them and was now with Uncle Taemin. It was impossible for her mother and father to get back together. Miho was very disappointed, but his daughter's next words made him even more desperate. She had heard that Taemin was her biological father. Lucy thinks her mother will marry her uncle. Miho is upset by his daughter's words. He tells Lucy not to forget that even though he is not her biological father, he loves her more than Taemin does. In order to destroy the relationship between Lucy and her biological father, Miho tells his daughter that it was Taemin who abandoned her and her mother. He tells Lucy that she should forget her biological father. Lucy looks at Miho, who is sad and desperate, and rushes over to comfort him. She said that she still loved her father the most. Jenny was worried about her daughter and couldn't sleep all night. She finally called Miho. The ringing of the phone woke Lucy up. When she answered the phone, she found out that it was her mother looking for her. When Jenny found them, Lucy protected Miho and didn't let her mother scold her father. Jenny was angry that her daughter was so ignorant and yelled at her. Lucy ran away angrily, and Taemin hurried after her. Miho shamelessly asked Jenny to let him raise Lucy. He knew that separating his ex-wife and Taemin was impossible. Jenny accused Miho of having no right to call Lucy his daughter. From the moment they divorced, Lucy had no connection to him. When Jenny saw Sora this time, she didn't hold back because she was at Haesuk's house. Jenny asked Sora why she brought Lucy to Miho. Sora didn't think she had done anything wrong and said that Miho was Lucy's father. She wanted the three of them to live together and knew that Jenny was planning to marry Taemin. She thought that Jenny should be grateful that she brought Lucy back, but instead, she blamed her. Faced with the shameless Sora, Jenny directly scolded her. The sound of their quarrel attracted Haesuk. She also thought that her sister must be missing something in her brain to do such unthinkable things. Sora showed no remorse. She argued back to her sister, asking her what she had done wrong. Haesuk's temper was immediately ignited. She stepped forward and scolded her sister, telling her to leave her house. Homeless, Sora ran to find Miho, hoping to move back in with her beloved professor. Miho flatly refused Sora, and stated he didn't want anything to do with her anymore. Sora clung to Miho's side. Jenny was worried that her daughter's words might hurt Taemin, so she tried to comfort him. Taemin, however, said he understood because Lucy had lived with Miho for so many years. He was grateful for Miho's efforts for Lucy over the years. He proposed to Jenny again, hoping they could get married soon. Having a stable family would also be beneficial for Lucy's growth. Taemin hoped Jenny would give him a chance to be a good father. Miho decided to cut all ties with Sora. Coincidentally, life presented him with an opportunity to escape this troubled place. A university in another city offered him a position. Although the school said they had heard about his various comments, they decided to hire him as a lecturer based on his work ability. Miho knew that this was his only chance to turn his life around, so he accepted without hesitation. Now, after living in this place for more than 10 years, his only concern was his daughter, Lucy. Before leaving, he came to see his daughter one last time. Lucy was happy for him that he could be a professor again, because the distance was a bit far. It would be a little inconvenient for them to see each other in the future. Miho specifically instructed his daughter that if her mother and her biological father were to marry, she must live with them happily. However, he also emphasized to his daughter that even if she had a biological father in the future, she must never forget this father who loved her just as much. After all, after living together for so many years, this familial bond wasn't something that could be easily forgotten. Looking at the sensible and well-behaved Lucy, Miho regretted his decision deeply. The next day, Sara came to his door again. This time, Miho didn't turn her away. Sara begged him not to send her away because she had fallen out with her family and now had nowhere to go. Miho told her that he was about to take up a position at a university in another city. Sara was very happy to hear this. She thought that the two of them could finally start over. However, Miho rejected her outright. The two of them had already ended their relationship, and it was time to start their own lives. Sara wanted to fight for him again, but Miho was very firm and told her straight up that if she wanted to stay, she could, but if she didn't, she should leave. Seeing the man she once shared a bed with now drawing a line between them, Sara's mind began to twist again. She believed that Miho must have rejected her because of Jenny. Soon, the day of Miho's departure arrived. He told Sora that he had transferred the lease on the apartment to her name. He hoped that they could part on good terms. He apologized to Sora for causing her so much suffering. A beautiful and kind girl like Sora deserved a better life. Sara asked if she could give her beloved professor a ride as a final farewell gift. Miho hesitated but agreed. However, he said he had something to take care of and would meet her downstairs later. Sora didn't say anything, but she used her phone to track Miho's location. She found out that the last thing he had to do was to see Jenny. Sara was about to go crazy again. Unaware of this, Miho was saying his final goodbyes to his ex-wife. He told Jenny that he was about to take a job in another city and that they probably wouldn't see each other again. He regretted the pain he had caused Jenny in the past and hoped she could forgive him. The scene of their parting was witnessed by Sora. The woman couldn't help herself and ran over to start causing trouble again. Jenny didn't even want to deal with this crazy woman and pushed Sora away before turning to leave. At that moment, a car sped toward them from a distance. Jenny was completely unaware of the danger approaching. At the most critical moment, Miho rushed forward without hesitation and pushed his ex-wife out of the way. Severely injured, he was rushed to the hospital for emergency treatment. Although the surgery was successful, he remained in a coma due to his head injuries. Sora, who was also involved in the accident, woke up and rushed to see Miho. As soon as she saw Jenny, she started blaming her, saying it was all her fault that Miho had become like this. She claimed it was Jenny who had caused everyone else to suffer and even tried to rush forward to attack her. Facing Sora's accusations, Jenny, who believed herself to be the source of all the trouble, felt deeply guilty. In order to ease her mind, she took care of Miho day and night. Seeing the person who had hurt her the most save her life, Jenny felt more and more guilty. The more she thought about it, the more she wondered if the outcome would have been different if she hadn't turned away yesterday. In order to prevent her daughter from being sad, Jenny asked everyone to keep it a secret from her. However, the sensitive Lucy found out. Upon learning that her father was seriously injured, Lucy cried her eyes out. She then found Tamine and asked him to take her to the hospital to see her father. Lucy's cries suddenly woke the man whose life was hanging in the balance. Jenny couldn't believe it and hurried to call the doctor and nurses. After examining him, the doctor said that it was a miracle that someone with such serious injuries had regained consciousness in such a short time. After regaining consciousness, Miho's greatest concern was Jenny. Perhaps only those who have experienced life and death know what they really need. But this scene hurt Tamine's heart. No matter how he looked at them, they seemed more like a family. Feeling lost, he could only leave alone. The next day, Jenny found Tamine and broke up with him. After all, Miho had done this to save her. She was afraid that there would be aftereffects and that she would need someone to take care of her. She didn't want to hold him back anymore. Tamine said he would always wait for her. They had already missed their chance once, so he would not let her go easily this time. Hearing Tamine's response, Jenny felt even more guilty, though she was also reluctant to leave. She eventually left with a heavy heart. Meanwhile, upon learning that Miho had woken up, Sarah began daydreaming again. She claimed that once the professor recovered, she would marry him. Facing Sora's persistence, her mother tried to reason with her, but by now, she was on the brink of madness. In her current state, even ghosts would be afraid of her. After waking up, Miho spent every day with his daughter. This was probably the happiest time of his life after getting married. However, only he knew the true condition of his body. He found Tamin and asked him to persuade Jenny to leave the hospital. He was the one who hurt her the most, so she didn't deserve to do this. Miho also asked Tamin to treat Jenny well in the future and raise Lucy together. At that moment, he was probably being sincere. That day, Jenny, as usual, was taking care of Miho but noticed something was wrong. She panicked and went to find help. Despite the doctor's best efforts, Miho died from complications. This is probably the outcome most people would have wanted. Good and evil eventually meet their just rewards. Heaven won't let anyone who's done wrong off the hook. The story ends here. Thank you all for your support. Finally, I hope everyone can be treated with genuine kindness and that everyone you meet is a good person.